Well, Kenny, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. You've been here longer than I've been alive, and I think that's true of maybe one other employee. I guess I want to start off with maybe a little bit more of a philosophical question. But as you think about your career with the Lake Doctors, there's kind of the North Star topic, right? What has been consistent in your career here, and as you look back, what has been the one thing that's been consistent?
It's just amazing watching the growth of the company over the years and the exponential growth recently. I remember, I can't remember what year it was, but it was probably close to 5 years after working with the company when the Lake Doctors made their first $1 million. And I was like, it was just amazing. I mean, just to watch the growth and to be a part of that growth all through the years. And, didn't get fired all the way. Got close a couple times, but it was a little bit crazier back in the day. But, with age and mellowing out, we made it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started and I had to do a proposal,
Mm-hmm.
I had to mail my proposal at first to Winter Springs, and then they would type it up, mail it back to me, and then I could hand deliver it to the customer. Eventually, they got a secretary, Nikki, in Sarasota. I was able to mail it to her, and she'd type it up and mail it back to me. Then the fax machine came out.
Very exciting.
And, oh, man, we were able to fax setups back and forth and proposals. And that really got things rolling. But keep in mind, back then, it was just landlines.
Yep.
And then they come out with pagers. We graduated from that to cell phones. The original cell phones were the big things with the antenna and everything. Yep. We didn't have those very long, and then they started coming out with the little flip phones.
Yeah, you had Nextel and then iPhones. Of course, the funny story about iPhones, this company, as we first went live, we had one Apple account for all the company cell phones. So everyone was getting everyone's text messages when they came out with iMessage, including some photos. And someone in Navarre, who's no longer here, had a really nice picture of his old lady that got sent out. And turns out everyone got that text message. Some people may still have it.
Oh.
I'm not trying to age you too much, but I've never used a pager or a fax machine. I've used a payphone maybe 5 times.
It was exciting at the time because back then, when you'd watch TV, you'd watch the hospital shows and stuff, and the doctor would get a page, or the cops on the cop programs would get a page, and they'd have to run to a payphone to call to get their message and whatever. And then we finally got like, wow, we're really up there, And then that lasted a little while, maybe a couple years, maybe. And then the cell phones started finally coming out.
So what's the most dangerous thing you've done for the Lake Doctors?
Well, I don't know if it's the most dangerous, but it was the scariest. I was treating a lake in Barnstore Country Club.
Yeah.
And a lot of gators in the lake there, and ran out of gas on my pump. So I went to fill up the gas and splashed some gas on the muffler. The whole thing caught on fire. So I had to bail out of the boat. I'm swimming around. The gators were like sort of coming in, and I swam around. I got to my fire extinguisher was on the other side. Couldn't reach it from where the fire was, and I got that put out. But it was rough. I couldn't quite get back up into the boat. So I'm like, come on, boat, let's go. So I sort of swam to shore with it, and the gators just kept watching me. And I don't really think they were being aggressive. I think
curious.
They were curious. I was in their territory, and they were wondering what the heck was going on. But it was a little touchy. I remember the same golf course back in the day. Myself and Dean Crivellaro were treating the lakes, and we had some arrowhead, the lancifolia, which doesn't have the big broad leaves. Very hard to kill.
Yep.
Especially with the herbicides we had available back then. So the golf course superintendent was like up in arms. We got to get rid of this arrowhead. It was all the way around the shoreline of the lake. So we said, well, we'll come out and we'll cut it for you. So I'm walking along the shore part of the lake, and Dean's probably about 6 feet over, doing the next
layer.
And we're just walking along, and I'm sort of behind Dean a little bit, and he's up a little bit further. We're walking, and all of a sudden I see Dean step up, and then I see him step down, and he keeps walking, and then a head pops up behind him. There's a 10-foot gator. He stepped on it. It was laying on the bottom. He stepped on it, then he stepped off of it, and it popped up behind him. And I'm like, hey, Dean, you might want to get on the shore. And so we left that lake. We went to the next lake over. That gator come across the fairway, followed us. He followed us to every lake that day, just because we were in his territory.
Well, maybe he had a crush on Dean.
Yeah, he could have loved
probably a girl, probably a big female, right?
It could have been a good, big old female.
When you think about, all the different versions of technology in the Lake Doctors that you've been a part of, what do you think the consistency has been in your staying power? You've been successful for all these decades and all these roles. How have you been able to adapt and overcome the rate of change, not only with the broader society, but more specifically within the Lake Doctors?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm sort of, I don't know, old fashioned, old style, whatever. It's hard for me to change. It's really hard for me to accept change. I fight it tooth and nail, but eventually I have to accept it. Because you gotta move on. And what's really helped me through that is, I think, a lot of help. I've gotten a lot of support from my coworkers.
Everyone's got different tricks, but obviously, like, the adaptability is incredibly important in any role. You think about the skills that you came with that day one setting. If you could talk to yourself, day one in 1983 at the Lake Doctors, what would you say to yourself?
Well, I've always had a background. I went to Penn State, majored in fisheries biology, and prior to accepting a job with the Lake Doctors, I had worked with Mote Marine Laboratory in Sarasota for a couple of years, and I was a senior staff biologist there. So I had background. I've always loved fishing, hunting, outdoor stuff.
Yep.
So it was like, oh, let's see, the Lake Doctors, they take care of lakes. That sounds like a wonderful job. They had just opened an office in Sarasota. El Semago had opened the office. He had come over from Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and he was the first one I hired. I got hired at like $6.25 an hour.
Very exciting.
So that was a big
That's a percent. Yeah, it's a good pay raise.
And so I worked with Al for a while. He trained me. We didn't have a heavy load of accounts right then, but we were growing.
Yeah.
He was doing the sales. I was doing the treating. Eventually, we needed to hire another tech, and we hired Wayne Yingling, who had also worked at Mote Marine Lab, and brought him aboard. Wayne eventually became the manager of the Sarasota office before Kevin.
Yep.
And I became the field manager after we hired. I had one person to boss around after we hired Wayne. And then we hired Bob Brim, who was my buddy from Pennsylvania, that we went to Penn State together. Yep. And he worked I got him a job at Mote Marine. And then we started working with, so it was just, it was a bunch of Mote Marine people there.
Do we owe you some recruiting bonuses? Do we need to put those in arrears?
So right around that time, let's see, Bob was there. I can't remember. So it was Kevin and Bob, and I can't remember.
And then Seymour couldn't have been too. Yeah, Seymour's been here 38 years.
Yeah, so it was either Seymour or Buzz, I believe, got hired next, and then they decided that they'd like to open Fort Myers office. So they asked me if I wanted to move, which I did. So I opened an office over on Metro. I remember those days. I was the only one there, and had an office with one bay warehouse. And I remember painting the walls and sealing the floors and everything.
And so once that work was done, how good did you get at fishing?
Man, I was fishing crazy. Well, you got to keep in mind when I worked at the lab. Okay, when I became shift supervisor at the lab for the 3 to 11 shift.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my wife at that time she worked daytime.
Yep.
So if I go home, she's sleeping.
Yeah.
So Bob and I would fish every night, unless it was pouring or really frigid cold or something. We'd fish till we caught 100 trout.
100 trout?
100 trout. Now back then, you
Yeah,
didn't
you
have the
could.
size
Yeah,
limits
yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
Because 100 trout was what we could clean in an hour. So we set
Okay.
our limit at 100. We can clean those up, and then I lived in a trailer park at that time, and I had various people in the trailer park. I had a few restaurants
Yeah.
and stuff, and I'd go sell the fish, and that paid for beer money or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and help with expenses. That was our next.
When did you
step.
first start stocking carp?
It was probably about 10 years after I started, so we'll probably in 90,
Early 90s,
something
yeah.
like that. Originally, when the grass carp started being used in Florida, they were tested up in Orange County,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And the biologists, book smart biologists, not field smart biologists, grass carp or river fish, say they will swim upstream at all times. So you don't have to put barriers downstream, you put barriers upstream. So they went and stocked thousands and thousands of carp, and they eventually got into Kissimmee, Okeechobee, and came down the Caloosahatchee because there was no barriers keeping them in Orange Lake and wherever else they put them. And Jesus, probably 15 years ago or so, there were some fishermen over here at the Franklin Locks in Fort Myers fishing, and they were tarpon fishing, and they caught these 2 fish, and they had no clue what they were.
Yeah.
So they called the FWC biologist, and they come out, and they were grass carp. The things were 96 or 98 pounds apiece.
Oh my gosh!
And they figured they were the original fish that got released in Orange County, and they worked their way down through the whole water chain.
Were they triploid then, or?
They were triploid.
Yeah.
They couldn't reproduce, but
I mean, we would have had a much bigger issue. Yeah, but this made unintentional state records, right?
Yeah, and just think what those things can eat. I mean, if
that's big, a lot of biomass to get to 96 pounds, in aquatic species,
yeah,
right?
I mean, they were probably eating hyacinths because the river has a lot of hyacinths and hydrola and everything. So, but anyway, we started installing barriers and getting the permits. Back then, it was easy. You could just call them, and as well, we didn't have computers, so you'd call them and tell them what you wanted and fax them.
I'm building a barrier. Scout's honor.
It's there. And we had our Polaroids, take a picture, and mail that to them.
Mail it to Winter Springs. They'd mail it back to Sarasota. Mail it to here. You'd mail it to the FWC field office. And then, boom, we got a permit. Easy as that, right?
It was no problem.
What about like on the equipment side? So when you started, all Toyota trucks?
We started Toyota trucks, 14-foot John boats.
Just aluminum John boats?
Aluminum John boats, 6 horsepower motors with a 100-gallon tank.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to, because of the copper, would eat the aluminum. We used to just keep epoxy in the John boat, the corrosion.
Mm-hmm.
And, we made them last a long time.
Yeah.
And, of course, we were fishing with them, too, back then.
Yeah.
So, but the little
spray systems were removable for 2 reasons. Right. Well, ostensibly to clean, but really
we had the 100-gallon tanks. When I got the office on Metro, we actually bought some junkyard or something was selling a big U-frame on wheels. And it would straddle your boat, your trailer.
Yeah, like a big motor hoist or something.
Big motor hoist. And you just hoist up your tank because we had little eye hooks on it, 4 eye hooks. Hoist up your tank, pull the boat out, and away you went. So we had it all set up for that. But we did quite a bit of fishing. Back then we were...
Call it research.
For research, yes. You got to sample the fisheries,
What's the best day of fishing you've had in a company boat?
I've had so many good ones. I've given back in the day when there weren't limits on sharks.
Yep.
and I love to eat shark, bull sharks or black tip especially. But Wayne and I had gone out and we caught like 20 sharks one day. We used to catch a lot of sharks.
Yeah.
Actually, when
you know, the change in the decades, you know, really do add up. You know, we think about you know, some of the people you've worked with. You mentioned, you know, a lot of people, you know, through the years. You know, who do you think about, you know, often you really cherish, you know, working memories with? There's so many, you know, great employees at the company and so much history. You know, who do you really miss working with?
there's so many. I mean, that's the problem. When I first started the Fort Myers office, that when we were down on Metro, the first person I hired was Dean Crevallero. Okay, he had just gotten out of the Peace Corps. He was raising tilapia in Africa for the natives out there, showed them how to do it. He eventually became a field manager of the office. But then right after him, I hired Ernesto de la Vega. Okay, and he had just moved here from Panama. He was a great guy to work with.
Yep.
Dean was a great guy. Al Semago, you know, he's the one who hired me. He was great. We had many good times together, fishing, working. Way back then, so when I was working out of Sarasota, we used to treat the lakes in Punta Gorda, but they had a little country store there with a little bar. So we would get our work done, but we'd fish, and then we'd stop at the country store and have a few beers before we headed back to the office. This is at night.
Yeah.
But that was back in the day, way back in the day. That was back in '85 or so. But those are good times. We had some good times, good Christmas parties.
America was rocking. Reagan was in the White House. We weren't losing any wars. The economy was at the top. And it was, you know, not uncommon for a guy to take his work truck, get some work done, have a few beers, and drive home.
Yep.
And we just had it too damn good. That was never going to be sustainable.
They ruined it.
But how many boats do you think you've sunk or destroyed in your career here?
I personally, I've only sunk one boat, and we recovered it. What happened, I backed up into this lake. The water levels were real high, and I didn't realize I was launching in a new area. I didn't realize there was a head wall right there.
No.
So I
transom took water over the stern. Yep.
Everything, and then when I tried to pull it out, it ripped the axles off of the trailer. So then, and that
always check your launches before you launch.
Yes. But that happened to be, I was working late that day. It was like 5:30 or something, and everybody was gone from the office. So I called Al from his home. We had cell phones at that time.
And he'd already probably been to the country store by that point. So
no, we weren't anywhere near Punta Gorda. But he come out. We ended up having to jack the thing up, and it was just a big rigmarole. It was like 9 o'clock or something by the time we got the trailer loaded up. Progressing, Buzz actually helped me a lot through some difficulties and stuff with the company, and then Kevin. A lot of times I hung out with Kevin at company meetings and stuff. You know, we'd sit and drink together and reminisce.
Kindred sales managers.
Yeah, and Mark Seymour, same thing. All the old guys. You know, as years went by, we had our own little niche. You know, our groupie sessions with the older guys that were left.
And we still have, I think the final count is, I think we have 15 employees who've been over 25 years. So but no one else over 40. Seymour's got to make it a few more. So as you look forward to the next 43 years of the Lake Doctors, what are you most excited about?
Where I what? I want to be up there with the Spirit in the sky in 43
Come
years.
on, man. With advances in modern medical science and your fantastic income, you should be fine.
Maybe I'll have to get cloned.
I don't think the world can handle 2K.
It's been a good ride. It has been a good ride. I must say, and probably the best thing that ever happened to me was hooking up with the lake doctors. I mean, it's been my career, my life. You know, it's been everything for a long time.
You've dedicated a tremendous amount of time, years of your life, expertise. You know, through these past 43 years, you've made us better in every way imaginable. We would not be the lake doctors if it weren't for your efforts and your skills, and you continue to make us better every day. And you know, we know that it may not be another 43 years with us. But we hope that we got many more years to come. Thank you very much. Appreciate
I appreciate
you.
that.
Yes, sir.